Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome to the program. I hope that you're doing well today and you are ready for today's program. Because today on the show we have, of course, Ralph Bond. He is our science and tech trends correspondent. And if you're not really sure what that means, don't worry. It means that we have a bunch of fun stories that aren't just tech focused, aren't just, our usual offerings of like consumer technology. And instead, they're going to focus on really cool, interesting, fun stories that are, hopefully on the positive side, that are going to kind of lead you into a Friday feeling better about everything. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let's face it, the news, it's all over the place lately, but not today. It's only good from here on out, folks, I promise. So, with that being said, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, podcasts, really anything that you need to find, you can find at computeramerica.com. So with that being said, of course, follow us on social media, all that good stuff. Let's go ahead and bring in Ralph and just get today's show started. So he's a longtime contributor to Computer America, and you may remember him as way long ago Intel Digital Minute. But of course, he's been here since, since really, I want to say actually Ralph was on one of like the first episodes of Computer America way back in the day. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, either way, he has evolved into our science and tech trends correspondent that tells us all the cool things that you may not have heard about. Ralph, welcome back onto the program. How you been?
Yeah, it's great to be back, and once again, we've survived another insane news week in the general media. But friends, what Ben and I do each Friday with this segment is highlight 4 recent articles that show us key trends and developments in all kinds of things: artificial intelligence, robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, agricultural tech, space research, physics, you name it, all across the board. But as Ben alluded to, most important of all, we're going to give you an oasis of positive news thanks to the world of science and technology.
Absolutely. And Ralph, you brought along a number of different stories that, ladies and gentlemen, by the time that you hear this, you should be able to find the show notes up on the site, and you can follow along. And for that, the show notes, super important. Definitely going to go check those out with all the different links, videos, articles. There's more to it, but you're going to get a really good feel for all these stories as we kind of go. So just sit back and relax. Ralph, we'll start with story number 1, and yeah, let's talk a bit about lithium, because ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, pretty much everything is getting a battery in it. Like lithium has done, it was huge in the 90s. It was huge in the 2000s, and like the technology just is not going away. Lithium is ever present, ever needed, and hey, getting it is always such a hassle. Well, what about story number 1, Ralph?
Yeah, this is one of 2 stories this week that are coming out of the United Kingdom. But the first one here, the headline is, lithium needed for battery revolution could be harvested from salt lake brines or geothermal brine solutions. And this comes from an announcement from the Imperial College in London. So again, as Ben was alluding to, lithium is such a hot topic. It's almost, you could say, strategically important as to what countries have it, who doesn't have it, who needs it, and so on and so forth. So this is a very germane topic for us to explore. And by the way, in the show notes that Ben mentioned, come out to computeramerica.com, get the show notes. I've embedded links, of course, to the original posting, in this case from Imperial College, but I've also inserted such things as links to the research paper behind all this. And so with that said, let's dive into this story. Now, of course, as we all know, demand for lithium is rising due to its use in batteries for mobile devices, cars particularly, and clean energy storage. Don't forget that. And securing access to natural deposits of the mineral extracted using traditional ground-based mining practices is now a matter of strategic importance. But lithium can be found elsewhere in nature, other than in the ground. That's the key element of this story and this research.
I think the last time that we really talked about lithium and acquiring the mineral on the show, and I'm not talking just us, Ralph, but just on the show itself, we were talking about that giant lithium reserve that they found in the western part of the United States. And of course there's tons of ecological issues and all that and other stuff.
Yes.
But ladies and gentlemen, just to tell you how big of a problem is, they found one of the biggest lithium deposits in the world right here in the U.S. Ralph, they said it would take about anywhere between 30 to 50 years to get the mine up and going. Not even to just to get it started, to even pulling it out of the ground. Getting it is not easy. So, more solutions are definitely needed.
Yeah, great. It's a very important point to raise because it fits into why this is an important story. Mm-hmm. So as an alternative to traditional ground-based mining, Imperial College researchers at the London campus have created a technology that could be used to efficiently extract lithium from saltwater sources such as salt lake brines or geothermal brine solutions. So this is a really interesting alternative. Now, conventional lithium extraction to date from brines, so a timeout, we're not saying this is the first time somebody has extracted lithium from brine solutions. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying, though, is this is a big step forward in that process. So again, conventional lithium extraction to date from brines takes months and uses significant amounts of water and chemicals, generating greenhouse gas emissions in the process. So again, that technology's been with us, but it has some really severe setbacks. So the alternative, and here's the key, Ben, the alternative developed by the Imperial College team in the Department of Chemical Engineering uses a membrane that separates lithium from salt water by filtering it through highly specialized tiny pores we're going to learn about. So this is really pretty cool. And as I just said a moment ago, this is not the first time these membranes have been used to extract lithium from brines, but the usual shortcoming with previous membrane filtering systems is that the pores also let through magnesium and other unwanted contaminants. That's the problem. So to solve this problem, the team has developed a class of special polymers that are highly selective for lithium. And I'm going to stop myself for a second here and make this point. We always do this every week. We're just giving you the highlights from an article that in turn is just giving highlights of the depth of research that you can find in the research paper. So if you're a super geek and you want to get into this, come to the show notes, get the link to the research paper. So with that said, I'll continue here. But get this, Ben, for more than a decade, the Imperial College team has been working on a new generation of synthetic polymer membranes based on materials known as, here's this very geeky, based on materials known as polymers of intrinsic microporosity. Okay, or PIMS, so polymers of intrinsic microporosity. These polymers are shot through with tiny hourglass-shaped micropores that provide ordered channels through which small molecules and ions can travel. And in the show notes, what I do is I try to add a little bit of value, because when I read these articles, I go, wait a minute, what are polymers of intrinsic microporosity? It's hard to say. I've injected here a little tutorial that I got from an AI search on what that is. So if you want to learn more about that, it's in the show notes. But let's move on. In this new study from the Imperial College team, the team fine-tuned the micropores to become highly selective for lithium. Now, by using an electrodialysis device, the team discovered that lithium ions are effectively pulled through the membrane micropores by an electrical current, and here's the key, while larger magnesium ions and other contaminants are left behind. That's the big ta-da.
the engineering precision that has to go through to be like, okay, I want this molecule, but not this molecule. That is some very fine tuning they're doing here.
Yeah, that's the point. And again, in the research paper, you'll find out the dirty details of how they pulled this off. And in the show notes, I have a little insert here about what electrodialysis is. And it's a fascinating process. You can learn more about that in the show notes if you desire. But going on here, tested on simulated salt lake brines. And stop for a second. This is a good example of what we do every week. Most of what we talk about that Ben and I share with you is early research, laboratory level work. We're not talking about something that's deployed today or next week, but something that's hopeful for the future. So that's the point I'm making about tested on simulated salt lake brines. These polymers of intrinsic microporosity membranes were highly selective for lithium and produced high purity battery grade lithium carbonate. Wow. Pretty cool.
Very nice.
And if these membranes are to be of practical use, here's a little reality check. If they're to be of practical use, however, they must be produced in large quantities. But fortunately, the polymers are soluble in common solvents and can be turned into membranes using established industrial techniques. Now, again, the research paper will explain a lot more about this. And then I thought to myself, well, okay, they're talking about salt lake brines like the Great Salt Lake in Utah or geothermal brines. What about the ocean, right? That's salt water. And so I did a little bit of research, and I have that embedded into the show notes. But the bottom line is lithium can indeed be extracted from general purpose seawater, okay? Although the process is currently quite complex and very expensive, seawater contains trace amounts of lithium. And I think that's the key why seawater is not that great of a candidate. So seawater does have trace amounts of lithium, approximately 0.17 parts per million, which makes extraction challenging, but not technically impossible. But that's why this technology is really looking at brine deposits,
right?
Saltwater brine deposits. Pretty cool stuff.
Something more concentrated, but even when you're talking about that lower parts per million, how many per millions are in the ocean? It's the ocean's pretty big, exactly. So I'm sure further down the road that they will get around to that, but still amazing research. And the fact they said that there's like an electrical current, so it's not completely passive, but still to be able to do it would be, again, another source of lithium, which, as long as we all keep enjoying our phones, our watches, our laptops, our computer, like just really anything and everything that is internet connected, lithium is needed. So very, very cool.
Yeah, and Ben, another little thought. Remember that, well, a couple of thoughts. One, if the electricity to drive the electrodialysis equipment that they use for this could be coming from renewable sources, wind energy and so on, you've got a perfect loop in that regard. And then with lithium, don't forget, friends, Ben and I have talked over the past several years about all this aggressive research in alternative to lithium batteries, sodium-based batteries, and other technologies that are being explored. So it's great. And if this helps accelerate the lithium world, wonderful. Seems like a good solution, but don't forget there's other research going on looking desperately for alternatives to lithium.
Yeah, but I mean, we can pull lithium out of the salt brine, Ralph. We don't know where to get sodium for these batteries. That's a mystery. We don't know where to get that. So we'll keep looking at brine solutions until we figure out where to get sodium from. I get it. Okay, so story number one. Story number two. Let's go ahead and skip on down to, you always like seeing the word Holy Grail. Big promises, big solutions, because, hey, sometimes we have some pretty big problems. And, let's go ahead and talk about solar power. Ralph was just talking about creating this essentially renewable energy for renewable solutions that will give us the materials that we need. But that renewable energy, we've talked a lot about solar panels, because there's always this, and just off the top of my head, thanks to Ralph, I now know about the term perovskite. There are breakthroughs in solar energy happening all the time. It's just, you're looking at 15% here, 20% there, 10% there, year over year. it's just getting better and better. It's a really good field to kind of keep an eye on. So, but Ralph has the Holy Grail, apparently. They found it in story number 2.
Yes, well, the headline is a little bit aggressive, I guess you could say. This story comes from livescience.com. The headline is Nanoparticle Breakthrough Could Bring Holy Grail of Solar Power Within Reach. It's a very attention-grabbing headline, so we have to kind of tamp it down a little bit. But let's get into this. Now, this article highlights a significant breakthrough from the University of Surrey's Advanced Technology Institute in the United Kingdom, and all, of course, dealing with solar energy technology, in this case, focusing on a new advancement in perovskite solar cells. So some of you might be going, wait a minute, perovskite? What? That sounds interesting. What is that? Well, let's give a little refresh before we dive into the news. Here's the deal. These cells, perovskite cells, are lightweight, flexible, and have the potential to revolutionize solar energy by being applied to various surfaces such as cars and phones. So they're it's a very attractive alternative to silicon-based solar capture technology, right? And we'll get into that some more. And a side note here, perovskite solar cells are an exciting advancement in solar technology, differing from standard solar cells, usually silicon-based, in several key ways. And in the show notes, I've inserted some additional information not coming from the article, but I got from a Copilot AI search that you can learn all about perovskite if you're not familiar with that. I encourage you to do that because it's something that the research community is very, very much pursuing. But here's the big but. Here's the major flaw to date with perovskite solar cells: stability and longevity. This is where standard silicon cells outperform perovskite solar cells to date, because silicon cells are highly durable, often lasting 25 to 30 years. Perovskite cells, while improving, in other words, the technology continues to improve every day of the week, they are still less stable and degrade faster under environmental stress like heat and moisture. Well, that's a problem. On top of my roof, believe me, this time of year, a lot of moisture, and in the summer, a lot of heat. So that's not going to cut it.
There was just an article a couple of weeks ago about Japan. They were one of the first countries in the world to really adopt solar panels. And now, Ralph, that 20 to 30 year mark has hit, and now they're looking, okay, how do we recycle these things? So durability is definitely, they're working on the end of life of solar panels because we've kind of reached that point. It's time flies. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And what we're going to learn about now from the article is, okay, so what is it that's holding back perovskite solar cells? What is one of the things that makes it weak as compared to traditional silicon-based solar panels? Well, with all that said, here's the big news. The University of Surrey researchers tackled a big problem to date with perovskite solar cells, and it all has to do with something called iodine leakage. And this is extremely geeky stuff, folks.
I think my doctor said I had that. Very concerned.
Well, I hope not. And in the show notes, once again, I've inserted additional information about iodine leakage. I will read this little part here to give you some context. So iodine leakage is a significant issue for perovskite solar cells because it compromises their stability and efficiency. And perovskites are known for their high efficiency and cost effectiveness, but they are chemically unstable. And why? Because when iodine leaks from the perovskite material, it can lead to degradation of the cell's structure and performance. This leakage is often triggered by environmental factors like moisture and UV light, which cause chemical reactions that break down the perovskite material. So iodine leakage is the bugaboo, that's the problem, and that's what these researchers have tackled. So in the new study, the scientists look for a way to trap the iodine that leaks from perovskites. Their solution was to embed tiny nanoparticles of aluminum oxide within the solar cells as they're being manufactured. This not only prevented the iodine from leaking, but also created a more uniform and electrically conductive structure. Wow. And after testing these solar cells under extreme heat and humidity, the researchers found that the modified cells maintained a high performance for more than 2 months or 1,530 hours, a significant improvement on the 160-hour lifespan of untreated perovskite solar cells, meaning traditional perovskite solar cells. So, huge improvement. And this improvement makes the cells more cost effective, efficient, and viable for widespread real world use. But time out. This is early research. We're not saying it's being deployed right now, but it's a breakthrough that may help perovskite be more viable, more practical. And the commercial implications, of course, to wrap this up, this development by the University of Surrey could reduce reliance on silicon, a costly and non-renewable resource, currently dominating solar technology. So, an interesting breakthrough. And again, if you're not familiar with perovskite solar cell technology, come out to the show notes, check out the links, and learn more.
And I know that you kind of launched this with perovskite solar cells and how they those are manufactured, right? Like those are renewable essentially. They're a human-made kind of thing, right? It's that. I say that because, like, at the end of the article, you said that silicon's a non-renewable resource. Is perovskite a renewable resource essentially?
That's a great question, and I'm going to plead ignorance on that. I don't want to say yes and without double checking that, but I think that's the implication certainly in the article.
Yeah, I think what they're saying is that because it's like carbon and the little crystalline structures, I think they're saying they can make it, so therefore it's not a non-renewable resource because they can make more from a very basic resource. Right. But still, that's another kind of check for perovskite. Very cool, and iodine leakage. That's all these
that's
little
geeky.
Yeah, all these little industry problems that you never even knew about, but hey, they're tackling them. Very, very cool. And Ralph, and like honestly, like that does seem to be. So this article doesn't seem to be like the holy grail, like per se,
right?
But it does kind of get to the point where, like, there's a tipping point with solar energy where it's going to produce more energy over its lifetime than the cost to produce it. And, it's not quite there yet. Like, it's pretty par and, it'll pay for itself in 10, 15 years. But, like, as that number kind of comes down, it only makes sense to put up more solar panels. It only makes sense to go more renewable, and that is kind of the snowball effect that we really want. Where Ralph, where renewables are kind of the no-brainer. They're cheaper, more effective, and good for the environment. A win-win-win. So,
and Ben, one of the things that the article reminded us is that one of the things that makes perovskite solar technology so exciting is that it's not just limited to rigid panels; it's flexible. It's a material and a technology that can be applied over surfaces. For example, Mercedes, as you may recall, is looking at coating their cars with a solar capturing technology. In the future, you could coat buildings, you could coat cars, you could coat all kinds of uneven surfaces even with this kind of technology someday if we can solve the iodine leakage problem. And that's what the folks, the researchers we just talked about, have apparently figured out a way to do just that.
That's right. So yeah, there's a lot of research going into solar panels. The breakthrough will come, and it's going to be incremental research like these papers. So very cool story number 2, and good job to the scientists. Story number 2, story number 3. We're going to go ahead and jump down to this, and this is I guess if you start making robots more like humans, we're going to have to start treating them a little bit more like humans. And, when you're back in the day, when your monitor broke or your TV broke, what was it called? Percussive maintenance was probably the way to go sometimes. You had to reseat those vacuum tubes, But nowadays, percussive maintenance, it just looks like you're beating a child. Like, it's not good to beat a humanoid robot. It's not nice. So how about we treat it with a bit more kindness and, Ralph, some self-healing gel?
Yeah. This is a really interesting story that has implications across a wide range of things in addition to robotics. But this comes from Discover magazine. And the headline here is Mimicking Human Skin. This self-healing gel could be applied to soft robotics. And I stress again, this could be, you'll find out this technology can be applied to many other sources as well. And there's the link in the show notes to the research paper if you want to geek out. This is very early research. I want to stress that again, okay? So this article highlights a groundbreaking development in hydrogel technology inspired by the properties of human skin. Now, until now, artificial gels have managed to either replicate high stiffness or natural skin's self-healing properties, but not both. So this is an important point. Ben, you and I, we've talked about all kinds of artificial human skin generated from biolab lattices and so forth, growing human skin, all these things we've talked about many times before. This is the key line in the article. Until now, artificial gels have managed to either replicate high stiffness or natural skin's self-healing properties, but not both. And that's why this breakthrough is so important. So now, a team of researchers from Aalto University in Finland, in collaboration with the University of, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm sure, Bayreuth, Bayreuth, University in Germany, okay?
Sounds right to me.
There you go. This team has developed a hydrogel with a unique structure that overcomes earlier limitations, opening the door to applications such as, this is the point about beyond robotics, such as drug delivery, wound healing, soft robotics sensors, there's your robotics, artificial skin, and new, we've already said this, new drug delivery possibilities. So this is the range of what this research could potentially impact. In addition, they've created a new hydrogel that combines both flexibility and, as we said before, self-healing capabilities. It's that combination. And here, Ben, this is how this new material is made. And this is very, very geeky, and you need the research paper to really get it. The breakthrough involves adding large and ultra-thin clay, C-L-A-Y, clay nanosheets to hydrogels and arranging polymers between them. Oh my goodness, there's an illustration that Ben is showing you right now on the screen that talks about this. The mixture is then set using UV light, resulting in a material that mimics the stiffness, flexibility, and self-repairing nature of human skin. Ding, ding, ding. Wow. And my comment about this, to be sure to check out the research paper for all the geeky details. And once again, this discovery opens up possibilities for creating bio-inspired materials with enhanced functionality. So much more than just robotics, as the headline would lead you to believe.
Yeah, I'm looking at the diagram, trying to make any sense of it. It looks like everything's just kind of suspended in the gel, and then it all orients itself, and in like complete chaos, seemingly turns into very orderly, structured, and firm, kind of bandage. Again, just totally just looking at layman looking at pictures. Very impressive, very cool, and glad that it's not just for robots, but hey, maybe for us as well. Getting those possibility of trauma situations or something like that.
Yes.
You could be able to treat injuries much faster. So very cool. Love to see it. So story number 3. Boy, that one was heady. Story number 4, I'm sure is going to be much easier to understand. It actually, it kind of is.
Yes.
Ever since The Wizard of Oz introduced us to the world of heart transplants, I think story number 4 is a really great breakthrough because, a lot of our talk that we've had on the show, Ralph, when it comes to organs and impacting people's lives, have been to how do we essentially shore up our dire need for organ transplants. There's lots of people waiting for life-saving organs, and waiting for someone to unfortunately have an accident, die, whatever it may be. Not the best way to kind of get that whole thing going. So finding replacements, we've seen breakthroughs in 3D printing, we've seen breakthroughs in just growing them in a lab, but this one's pretty cool as well. It's not growing something, it's just, hey, making something. So story number 4.
Yeah. And what Ben's alluding to and giving you kind of a tease is a really interesting development in the area of cardiology treatment. This comes from Nature magazine. Headline: Man survives with titanium heart for 100 days, a world first. So we'll explain all about this. There's some great images in the show notes, by the way. Check it out. So here's the story. An Australian man in his 40s has become the first person in the world to leave a hospital, with an artificial heart made of titanium. And you're going to understand why this is so significant. The device is used as a stopgap for people with heart failure who are waiting for a donor heart, as Ben was kind of alluding to a moment ago. Previous recipients of this type of artificial heart were required to remain in U.S. hospitals while it was in place. So this person was able to leave the hospital.
Yeah, maybe he was just really trustworthy. Like, they're still going to make everyone stay in the hospital. This guy was just really on the ball. Like, I don't know. This is insane.
Well, you're going to find out that they've created a portable device that allows this to be possible. So we'll get into that in a second here. The man lived with the device for more than 3 months until he underwent surgery to receive a donated human heart. The man is recovering well, according to a statement from St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, Australia, where the operations were conducted. The Australian is the sixth person globally to receive the device, known as Bivacor, Bivacor, but the first to live with it for more than a month. So a little qualifier here. This Bivacor titanium heart has been around. And we're not saying this is brand new as of today. What we're saying is they've been able to advance the technology to enable someone to live with it for more than a month and leave the hospital because of technology they've developed to make it portable. So that's the key here, and it's a very significant breakthrough in this area as you tread water waiting for a donated heart.
Right.
Now, some cardiologists say the Bivacor could become a permanent option for people not eligible for transplants because of their age or other health conditions, although the idea still needs to be tested in trials. This is a great example of this early research. You've had this Bivacor titanium heart device. They've advanced it with a portability capability so that patients can leave the hospital. It's enabling them to live with this solution, this stopgap solution, for a longer period than ever before. And they're saying, gosh, you know what? Maybe we can advance the technology because of its portability now to be a permanent solution for people who either can't get a donated heart or for other health reasons are not good candidates for that accordingly. So Bivacor, by the little background here, Bivacor was invented by biomedical engineer Daniel Timms, who founded a company named after the device with offices in Huntington Beach, California, and Southport, Australia. Kind of fun. And the device, oh, you're going to like this, Ben. The device is a total heart replacement, and works as a continuous pump in which magnetically suspended in which a magnetically suspended rotor propels blood in regular pulses throughout the body. Wow.
Huh.
A cord. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, like the amount of engineering to just something that replaces something that we all have deep down inside of us. It is insane that they're able to get to this point. It's really impressive.
It is extremely impressive. Not least of which attaching the artery system to this device and making that work as well when you have a foreign object like a titanium metal object. Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
To divert you once again, wasn't it just last week or was it the week before that we had like the replaceable heart valves that would eventually grow into human cells as well?
Correct.
Yeah. Very impressive. Yeah.
Oh, the technology going on in heart research is just so exciting and very encouraging. So going back to this titanium heart inserted into your body in replacement of your failing heart, there's a cord tunneled under the skin, connects the device to an external portable controller that runs on batteries by day and can be plugged into an electrical outlet at night. That's what makes this so cool in terms of why this man was able to leave the hospital. Now, in the show notes, I've injected a bunch of background information on this company, Bivacor, and the Bivacor device itself. So if you want to learn more about this amazing thing, check out the show notes. But Ben, what a great and uplifting way to end the regular part of our show today with something that's so encouraging for people who suffer from heart disease and need a heart transplant but need something to tread water until they get there, or potentially a permanent replacement, although you'd have to walk around with this little box on your side, as you can see in the illustrations from the show notes. But still, very, very encouraging news.
Yeah, no, it's all incremental increases. And 100 years ago, they just say, got the plague, whatever, fall over dead, whatever happened 100 years ago. Nowadays, hey, they might be able to just replace the whole dang organ and call it a day. Very, very cool, and it will only get better, I'm sure. So there you go, story number 4. And Ralph said that's our regular part. We try to keep the show a little bit more condensed, make it easier to kind of listen to, because we know that time is precious. So hey, that's the fun part. Also, the second fun part though is homework. I know, everyone's favorite. Well, it's not really homework. These are stories that we just don't have time for. And Ralph always likes to make it a point that, there's more good stuff happening out there that we can't cover. It's not that these are worse, they're less, or, whatever. It's just that we just don't have time for it. So if you go to computeramerica.com, you're in the show notes. At the bottom, there are the honorable mentions. And we're going to go through and read off the headlines just to kind of show you what you can find there. But if you want to find out more, go there, go to the show notes, and yeah, you'll find everything right there for you if you want to read more. So with that being said, Ralph, let's go ahead and get into the honorable mentions.
You got it. This one comes from Technology Networks. And I'll just give you the headline, as Ben was saying. Headline: scientists use amino acid to extract 99.99% of lithium from old batteries. It's good old lithium again.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, that's a profound 99.99%.
That's some good recycling. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? That's so cool. Again, check that story out. Go to the show notes. Next one comes from realclearscience.com. Headline: spinning twisted light for next generation electronics. Very geeky stuff, but lots of fun. Check it out. Our next one, our third one of 4, this comes from IEEE Spectrum. Very geeky publication, but the headline here is Nanoparticle Could Act as Switch in Optical Computers. New nanoparticles can switch between dark and bright states. This is in the area of photonic computing, light-based computing. Wow, very geeky, but very, very interesting.
Been hearing more and more research about sending data through light beams and sending now this acting switches through lights. I don't know what a light-based computer is going to look like, but they're definitely putting a lot of energy into it. So very cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of interest in the combination of photonics, computers based on photonics, and marrying that with quantum computing. So there's some really interesting stuff going on in that world. But our last honorable mention comes from livescience.com, and this is so beautiful images here. James Webb Telescope's view of the Flame Nebula is a quantum leap forward for astronomers. And if you're curious about that headline, check out this article, come out to the show notes, and you won't be disappointed in those images. The James Webb images just blow my mind.
They are literally like the difference. And let's see, we're actually going to hit this one. The James Webb Telescope, Ralph, I remember covering that all the way up through, and then it sent up, and now we can start seeing images. It is literally like the difference between seeing a thumbnail of an image that the Hubble would send us, and then seeing like the blown out complete source image where it's just everything surrounding it in high definition.
So weird.
It is so amazing that they're able to do that. So very cool. And again, if you want to see those pictures, if you want to see anything from today's show, check out computeramerica.com. You will be able to find it all right there. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the music means that we are going to wrap up. I want to thank you so much for coming out, checking us out. And hey, until next time, we're here every single Friday with Ralph, where we talk about uplifting good news. If you want to hear more of that, every single Friday. So until then, everyone, have a great weekend. Do something fun, and we'll catch you next week. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.